Um, Father, we give you praise and glory, and again, thank you for this Shabbat. Thank you for this time that we can gather together and study your word. And I pray, Father, that you will, just give us eyes to see and ears to hear, and that you would be glorified in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we start Exodus today, starting 1:1 and go through 6:1 um, for our lesson. Now, uh, as I've looked at this over the years, this Torah portion um, is around the time, they're about 3 or 4 generations from Jacob, and from the time that he took him into Egypt. And so, and we can glean all of that when we get to Numbers, when um, it goes through the genealogy and everything. But there's some interesting commentaries on this portion that kind of go along with what I've been talking about for the last couple of years. So I'll bring those up as we come to them. And so let's go to Exodus, chapter 1, verse. I'm going to read 7 through 10. Can kind of skip through this. Let's see. I'll go ahead and read mine. We'll see how close it is to your, the other translations. Verse 7, the children of Israel were fruitful, teemed, increased, and became strong. Very, very much so. And the land became filled with them. Now a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. He said to his people, behold, the children of Israel, are more numerous and stronger than we. Verse 10, come, let us outsmart it, lest it become numerous. Interesting wording there. And it may be that if war will occur, it too may join our enemies and wage war against us, and then go up from the land. All right. We get the information that there's a new king that has come into power that did not know Joseph. And it's interesting when you look, and I talked about this I think last week a little bit, the Egyptian history of that time. There were a numerous amount of Hebrew-speaking people there. So it doesn't give us exactly how many of the generations there were, or people. All we know is they became numerous. That's what it states for us. I would believe that there was probably 1 million or better of the Hebrew-speaking people, those of the children of Israel, as well as there were other Hebrew-speaking people there from the other descendants of Abraham, who went to Egypt because, for food and everything, the very same thing that Jacob and his family went for. And it's in the history that the Hebrew people settled in the land of Goshen. Now, within their history of Egypt, there was a kingdom or a nation that increased, and it doesn't give their language, it doesn't call them Hebrews, it just says there was a people that were there, and they overtook or they overpowered the governmental system there, the Pharaoh system, and they were running the country. And the history says that when they were in charge, the country flourished. It became more, again, it gained wealth, and it was sort of, and the way I kind of relate this to the children of Israel throughout history is whenever they have pretty much been in a territory or land, they become prosperous, and the land that they're living or the place they're living becomes prosperous also. And however, what happens is they become too prosperous, and then the people where they're living at, the people want to get rid of them. And that's sort of been the pattern of our Jewish brethren over throughout the years, throughout the history of their existence. And so here we have the very same thing with this, and it's interesting because it doesn't call. It says a king arose that did not know Joseph. It doesn't say a pharaoh arose that didn't know Joseph. It said a king arose that didn't know Joseph. This king would then later, I can't remember the name, when I studied this years and years and years ago, the king would become a pharaoh in time. But the interesting thing is, as verse 9 says, they were a numerous people. And verse 7, and they filled the land. Means, and the way I interpret that is when it says, and the land became filled with them, Egypt became filled with them, is that since they were so numerous, they moved out of Goshen and they were moving throughout the land. And they were, again, the Father was blessing them and they were becoming a multitude of people. It's not uncommon, even for today's history, that people of other nations or other ethnic groups, they'll move into a land or nation or a country, and they'll just start to, be prolific in their status and even in their the numbers. And this country is the very same thing. Most of the Americas, that's the way, the Europe, when they ran out of space, people came over here, both to North and South America. And they just continue to, over the past 400 years, or 500 years, basically, they just started to become, a greater population. But now, because I remember we were talking last week with somebody that the immigrants that came over in the late 1800s, when they settled into a place, their ethnic groups huddled together. And I remember going up to Aberdeen, South Dakota. I don't know if any of you know where that's at, but it's not Pierre, South Dakota. It's about 100 and some odd miles from there. But it's a small community. And I remember, and that's where my mother grew up, and I remember her saying that they had their Polish section, their German section, their Jewish section, they had the Catholic section, and so I mean they were all segregated, so to speak, to use that word. And so that was just 200 years ago, when this country was really starting to get settled. And so it's a very common thing, and so now this king comes up, and now he wants to deal with these people because there's three concerns that this king brings up. And the first one is in verse 9. It says he's very concerned that they're going to become more numerous and stronger. Okay, that's a pattern. This is a pattern. They're going to become more numerous and stronger. Well, when the children of Israel let me put it this way: when the house of Israel becomes known, their numbers are going to be large, and I'm trying to look for the commentary here. Now, in this commentary, it's, what it's talking about, refers to the children of Israel as Jews. Well, at this particular time, they were not Jews. So I'm going to just kind of read this for you. The Egyptians were frightened by the growth of Israel. The children of Israel were becoming too numerous, too strong. They might overwhelm the natives. However, they were also too useful to be permitted to leave the country. It was the first instance in history of what has become the familiar pattern of, quote, anti-Semitism. The children of Israel are too dangerous to keep, and they are too important to lose. So we've got a term or a phrase in our language that says, can't live them, you can't live without them. And that's about the way it is. But most of the times then you just, displace or get rid of those that, you don't want around anymore. And earlier in the week I was, thinking about this very thing with, when we started to inhabit and move across the country as a people, across what's become the United States, we displaced the native people. And the very same thing happened in Mexico and in South America. And so, it's a common thing that happens. And so now it's the very same pattern 3,500 years ago that these people, the king especially, is scared it's going to happen. Okay, so they're becoming numerous. The second thing is that they would join their enemies and wage war against them. Now, can you think of anything or any time that a country has been scared of that? Or filled with fear of somebody that's living among them? That they say, huh?
Yeah. During the Second World War, we interned the Japanese in camps.
Correct.
Because we were afraid of them.
And they weren't the only ones.
There were more groups?
Yeah, there was other ethnic groups that were, especially if they were of German descent, that were interned. And I remember learning about this in Colorado because we had, talking about the Japanese, I knew a couple of, people that lived, their ancestors were put into camps. Even though they were native-born citizens.
Right.
So it's not something that is new, what happened. It's an unfortunate thing. But just to have the fear of being overtaken, by another ethnic group. And if what took place, before this time, if that group of people were Hebrews that overtook the country before the pharaohs took them back, well, I can see the concern that they're going to have. Well, they're going to grow much more numerous, and then they're going to want to, if our enemies come in, then they're going to rise up against them. But not only that, the third thing is they're going to leave.
Right.
They're going to go up from where they're at. Now, I want to put this scenario out there. Could that happen with the house of Israel, with the children of Israel in general? Could that happen again? Amanda shaking her head, yes.
Yeah, we say absolutely. Everything happens in cycles.
Right. So that's, I've been talking about this for years, and that's, when the house of Israel, is revealed, and they start gathering together or becoming of what we would say one mind, um, then people are going to fear what's going on, and so and then the end result is they will be they will be sent out of the land, or they will leave where they're at and go to the land of Israel. That's what's ahead. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any questions on that?
Well, I think that earlier on what you were talking about with reference to the king, a new king coming up. I think you're probably referring to his coast.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They were always warring back and forth and taking over each other's land. And that would, because they were all, it's my understanding that they were that time the vast majority of were all Semite. They were a Semite origin.
Right. Yeah, and that was what I had found out also. So I just call them Hebrew speakers, because it would have included more than just the children of Israel.
Right.
And
Well, do you think that, every time the Jewish people go into land and they prosper and they make the land prosperous, instead of the people in that land appreciating it and encouraging it, they basically go to war with them and want them out. Now, do you think that has anything to do that they're supposed to be in their own land, and Yahuwah doesn't want them to be too comfortable in another land because they didn't do what they were supposed to do in their land? So why would they be comfortable in another land?
Okay, and that's why for people to really understand, you have to understand what the Father's plan for the children of Israel is, especially the house of Israel. And if we get to time to get to Isaiah, it starts off with the Haftarah portion, about he's going to bring them back together. But he's the one that has scattered them, as we talked about last week about Joseph. It was all under the authority and the work of the Father to have Joseph taken off in the way he was. It's not something we would recommend, being thrown in a pit and then hauled out and then sold off and drugged down and thrown into prison, and then to be brought out and made as a high prince within a country, within a big a very important country, and then years later they leave. Well, that's what the house of Israel is supposed to be. That's what's going to happen. That's the pattern. And if you don't read the prophets, if you don't read Moses, you won't pick that up. I never picked it up until I started reading the prophets, and still started reading Moses, really. When he says, in Deuteronomy, I'm going to scatter you, but I'm going to bring you back. The one thing we don't know is the time frame. That's what's unfamiliar. That's what we, and there are people that think they know, but those that I've heard of, and for the last 50 years, well, they've been wrong. And so, but there is a sign. There are signs that we can look for, or that will appear, that will give us a clue of when it's happening. Okay, and this first part of Exodus gives us a good pattern to kind of just, if we're aware of what's going on, it gives us a good pattern of, how this is gonna come about in the days ahead. And so,
I think too that what was said just a little bit ago, not only do people want to, when Israel is in the land or out of the land where they go, they prosper for the most part. People not only want to get rid of them, but they want to take what they've got. They don't want to
yes.
wait for including the land. When they're in the land, they even now they want to take the land. From the river to the sea. That the big chant now with Palestine. Palestine must be free and all that nonsense. But I think that a lot of that comes from the patterns you're speaking of. And I've said this for many, many years. I thought that there's two things that if Hasatan can destroy, he wins. One is the nation of Israel, people themselves. If he can destroy them and wipe them out, he wins. If he can destroy the Shabbat, he wins, because the Shabbat, as Yah has told us, is a sign between him and his people forever.
Right.
So if either one of those are destroyed, he wins. And so you have this cycle goes over and over again about people being sent or nations coming against Israel to destroy them, to wipe them out. You have Sunday worship today with all the Christians and trying to take away, saying the Sabbath that was for Israel, it's not for us.
Right.
So that's how I see it. These patterns you're talking about, they're there because Satan keeps trying to destroy the people and nation of Israel. He did it. You have two kinds of kings in history that did things to Israel. You have those who took Israel into slavery, like Nebuchadnezzar, and you have those like Antiochus Epiphanes and like Adolf Hitler, who tried to destroy him completely, to wipe him out.
Mm-hmm.
And the final anti-Messiah, when he finally comes upon the earth, he will want to wipe them out. So I think those are patterns you're looking at. If he can destroy Israel, he wins, and he's not going to win.
Right.
But anyway.
Exactly. No, that's good. That's good. All right. I want to go down to verse 20 and 21. Okay. And this is just something here that, well, let me read it. And, this is about, the time when Moses was being born, and children of Israel continued to flourish even though the decree went out that they were supposed to kill the firstborns. Well, or the males. So verse 20, Yahweh benefited the midwives, and the people increased and became very strong. And it was because the midwives feared Yahweh that he made them houses. Now, that last phrase, Yahweh made them houses, is an important key within, Hebrew thinking. So what does that mean? He made them houses.
He gave them families.
Okay, families.
My version is the established households.
Households, yeah. So that'd be families. The Hebraic thought on that is generations. Means that they're going to continue on making families and that's where the word house comes in. It's not most people think of, when they read or hear the word house, they think of a structure. And it's not a structure, except in the form of, it's a family. It's a genealogy. And that's what he's promising, or has promised, and is working at, is keeping that genealogy going throughout all of this, these millennia. And, we see it happening here, and, we're going to see the evidence of that in the future. Now, I want to go to John chapter 14. John chapter 14. So what I'm saying, I want to validate that with what Yeshua said. I'm gonna be verse 1 through 4. John chapter 14, verse 1. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you, for I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go on and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. Now, verse 4 is very interesting. And you know, he's telling his disciples, and we can accept this also, and you know the way where I am going. Now, how is that way? Even though it goes on in verse 6, it says, I am the way and the truth and the life. But how is that going to happen? How is that going to, or what is that going to look like? And what is he really promising? What is Yeshua really promising here to us and to his disciples?
I think he's talking about my version, verse 4 says, and you know where I go and the way you know. So I think he's telling him that, you know, you know what you have to get there. I apologize to the dogs in the background. But he's telling you, you know what you have to do.
Exactly.
To be with me.
He hasn't left us as orphans, which some people at times feel that way, that they're orphans. What am I supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to be doing it? But if we understand, you know, he's gone to secure our place in the Father's kingdom. Let me state that again. Yeshua has ascended to the Father to secure our place in his Father's kingdom. And I get that from, I go to prepare a place for you. So he's in, to kind of add a couple other scriptures, he's in heaven, interceding for us. He's taking, you know, if the enemy, if Hasatan is hurling insults, well, he's the one that's collecting those insults and making them as if they're nothing. That being Yeshua. So that our place will be secure when the time comes. Because to me, this is what these verses are talking about. It's talking about future. But it's talking about the generations. Okay, anything else? All right. So we go on. And chapter 2 is dealing with the birth of Moses. And then he turns 40, basically, and he flees to the land of Midian. Now, and I've talked, you know, pretty much I think all of you know where the land of Midian is. At least I think you should. Does anybody know where the land of Midian is?
It's like in Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia. What is Saudi Arabia today? And so this is where he goes. He flees. So he's there for 40 years. So now he's 80 years old. He's gone through two 40-year periods of testing. Now it's time to be tested again. And so he goes to Midian and he is keeping sheep. And he's gone far into, as verse 1 in chapter 3, says, he went far into the wilderness and he came to a mountain. And as we read on, as we're going to read on, it's key to understand where this mountain is at. This mountain is in the land of Midian. I mean, I think all of us realize that now. They've found a bunch of archaeology stuff in Saudi Arabia, that would validate what we're talking about here. And then an angel or a messenger calls out to Moses. Okay, so I'm going to go down to verse 8. And here's what the word is given to him. It says, I shall descend to rescue it, meaning the children of Israel, from the hand of Egypt, and to bring it up from that land to a good and spacious land flowing with milk and honey. And it lists out who's there at that particular time. But the work to be done, in the beginning of verse 8, and the word I there refers to the word. I, the word, shall descend to rescue it from the land of Egypt, or where they were at. And when you continue on reading and you go to the prophets and everything, and you read what Yeshua said, Yeshua came to start the work of regathering, but it wasn't complete. He raised up his disciples. They were to complete the work. We're today to complete that work, continue on. But the day is coming, as we just read in John, when he will come and gather us. And we'll go to to the place, and that's what he's talking about in John 14, is entering into the kingdom. But verse 8 in chapter 3 of Exodus is a pattern. I will gather you together. And when you read the prophets, it's exactly what is said. I will gather my people. I scattered you, I will gather you back. I have done this. And I will do this. And so, jump down to verse 12. This is when, what am I supposed to say to Pharaoh when I go to him? And the word of Yah said, for I shall be with you, and this is your sign that I have sent you. Make note of this. When you take the people out of Egypt, you will serve Yahweh on this mountain. Right there, he gets his mission. His mission is when you bring these people out, you will come back to this mountain. And this is where I will meet the people. I will meet the children of Israel. So Moses knew what his mission was. He was to go get these people with the help of the word of Yahweh and bring them back. And so, as Exodus goes on, we'll see that Moses knew the way back. I believe that Moses knew the way back. Number one, he found his way there to begin with.
Yeah.
He had to go up and over the deltas, and then down to Midian. Now, I don't think he swam across them when he went back to Egypt. I believe he followed the same route. So he knew what the route was. Now factor that in when we get to Exodus, when they leave. They're heading in the direction that Moses came from. But the work of Yahweh, the work of the Word was not done yet. So he changed the route, so to speak. And when we get to that, hopefully I'll remember to bring in some insight. But again, Moses' mission was bring them back here. I will be with you. It's Yahweh, it's the word that's going to motivate their hearts. But down to now let me, because then Moses receives the name. Okay. Now, why do you think that's important that Moses receives the name? Well, number one, he asks, "What's your name?" Or who shall I say has sent me? So why is that important?
Well, the Egyptians had many gods.
Yeah, they had many gods.
It would be good to identify who they're talking about.
Absolutely, and that's what Moses is asking. And you go to verse 16, and he gathers the elders of Israel. This is what he was told to say. Yahweh, the Elohim of your forefathers, has appeared to me, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So right there, and there's other places here that when the word speaks to him and says, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, all powerful. So when they went into Egypt, that's what I can imagine. That's what the name was, El Shaddai, all powerful. But now the name, it's not going to change. Now the name is now revealed to them, the proper name. I'm going to put it that way, the proper name. But there's an attachment to it. I mean, Yahweh is revealed through the wording here, but there's also an action. It's Ayeh, Asher, Ayeh, and you've heard me talk about this. I shall be as I shall be. That's the action. And so it was the action that was speaking to Moses. The word of Yahweh that was speaking to Moses. And so Moses taught them the name, gave them the proper name of El Shaddai. And that's still a difficult thing today. Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Jehovah. There's a multitude of ways, to pronounce that. Yod He Vav He. But, he reveals to the children of Israel, or the elders, let me put it that way, to the elders, this is the one who appeared to me. That's in verse 16. This is who appeared to me. And I've talked about this before. It's like, okay, if somebody came to our group and said, Yahweh appeared to me, and he has this message, and he gives, the individual gives a message. How do we discern that? So this is, huh?
The word. We
Well,
need to look it up in word.
right. But let's say you don't have the word.
Oh,
See, the children of Israel didn't have anything written
Right.
down.
that's true.
They had things that were spoken. They had things that were passed down.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we judge that? How do we validate that? Let me put it. That's probably the best way. How do we validate that? Well, when Yeshua came, he had to validate what he was saying. So how did he validate it?
By his miracles?
Through signs and wonders.
Exactly. By miracles, as Amanda says. Signs and wonders. Do you think that's going to happen again?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I believe that's going to happen.
Well, it even says that even the witnesses were able to do things. The two witnesses in Revelation.
Right. The two witnesses in Revelation.
And he says we will do signs and wonders.
And where do we find that? Should we go back to John?
Sure. Don't do that.
I'm sorry.
I think part of this too is that he was kind of preparing them by this name, that I shall be what I shall be. He was kind of preparing them for what they were going to be seeing very shortly, in that Yah is manifesting himself
Right.
through the plagues that he sent upon Egypt, and he's going to manifest himself as a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud that leads him in the desert, and a thunder and lightning on the mountain. He's going to he appears in whatever form he wants to appear in.
Correct. Excellent. Yeah. Go to John 14. I'm going to be down in verse 11 and 12. All right, the way mine reads is, believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me, otherwise believe on account of the works themselves. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I shall do, he do also. Not only that, greater works than these shall he do, because I go to the Father. Now, he's not saying that works were not happening back then, as far as, with other people, because they were. And the disciples even brought up, in the text that, they were even able to do works. And they were surprised when it happened. But a time is coming, just as we've talked about, that greater works we are going to be doing when it's time to really, expose the message of the gospel. I believe we will see it. And that's going to bring a lot more of the people, and I'm going to say the children of Israel, out of the woodwork, so to speak. And there, and just as Yeshua, in chapter 17 of John, his prayer to the Father says, I have, when he says, I have taught them your name, well, the name has to come back into play. It has to be established. And works will follow. I mean, I remember back in the 70s and 80s, some great works that were, people were doing. And I've always wondered whatever happened to those people, where they at today. And so, but there was and that's what Revelation is about. And as I've said before, the works that were done in Egypt were to get the attention of the children of Israel.
Right.
And that's the way it's going to be again. The children of Israel are going to need to see signs and works that's going to validate the message is coming from Yahweh. Now, if there's no thoughts on that, I want to go back to chapter 4 of Deuteronomy. Or Exodus, rather. I don't know. Deuteronomy just kind of validates a lot of what I'm talking about here, but I want to bring this one point up. Because we know that Moses is going to do works. He's told that he's going to do works. He's going to do miracles. Now, miracles are something that cannot be explained in the physical. Okay. And but there was before he went into the land, before he went before Pharaoh. It was after the time when the boys, they were on their way back. The two of them had to be circumcised. And so in verse, where am I at? 22, I think it is, yeah. And Moses, is now, he's near the land of Egypt. And so, let me go to verse 21. Yahweh said to Moses, when you go to return to Egypt, see all the wonders that I have put in your hand and perform them before Pharaoh. However, I shall strengthen his heart, and he will not send out the people. Again, Yahweh's in charge. Verse 22. You shall say to Pharaoh, so said Yahweh. See, now he's just spoken the name, he's to speak the name to Pharaoh. My firstborn son is Israel. So I say to you, send out my son that he may serve me. However, you have refused to send him out. Now this is all before Moses goes into the land of Egypt. Behold, I shall kill your firstborn son. I bring that up for a reason. And it is because he will let us know through his word what's going to happen when that time comes. When finally the people around the world are going to be let go of, or put out of their land that where they're at around the world. But see now, Egypt is not going to want to let them go, or Pharaoh is not going to want to let them go.
Yeah.
When we get to that part where it's time for them to go, now the people will go, yeah, get out of here, type of thing. But Pharaoh didn't want to let them go until the firstborn was killed. Till his firstborn was killed. That's pretty dramatic. That's really dramatic. So what is it going to be like when we do a greater exodus? We're not coming just from one landmass, we're coming from all over the world. And we're brought into the land. What's it going to take? Just something to think about, because it doesn't tell us. Revelation just gives us enough information of what's going to happen. But there will be a final thing that will take place. That will sort of be the trumpet, so to speak, that brings the children of Israel back to the land. That's how he gets them back. All right. That's pretty much what I have for you today. Any thoughts, any questions?
Back to the scripture where Yeshua says he's going to prepare a place for us. Well, a lot of Christians think they're actually going to get physical mansions.
Well, yeah, and if you think of other religions,
Yeah.
it's the very same thing. They think they're gonna, get a cloud or get a star or, get a planet or whatever.
Cooler, yeah.
And that's why I wanted to bring that up, is because it's talking about generations. It's talking about people. And then I've had people say, well, if we all have mansions, how are we going to cram into that land? Some of you have been in that discussion.
Yeah, but not everybody's going to be in the land, right?
Well, talking about the kingdom, in the kingdom. So if everybody gets a house or a mansion, because what they're thinking of as mansion is something that is 22 rooms or and 30,000 30 bathrooms or whatever, and 12 kitchens. That's not, huh?
That's the greed in our nature.
Very good. Yeah, very good. That is. We deserve it. No. That's why it's about generations. It's about people. And so many of you.
The literal translation of the word used there is actually the word is rooms. He goes to prepare rooms for us.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. So
you can look back. You can look back at the in history with reference to rooms and look at what was Noah required to put into the ark. He had to build rooms in the ark. And where did Rahab, when she was rescued from Jericho, where was she? She was in a room. Yeah, so it all ties together. As mainstream Christianity wants to believe it's mansions.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let me close this out with a word of prayer. Father, I give you praise and glory again. I thank you for your word. I thank you for the study, and I thank you that you have chosen us to carry on these words. And I pray that, Father, you know, we would be ready in season and out of season, you know, as the opportunity comes up. And we give you thanks. May you be glorified. Continue to watch over us and our loved ones. In Yeshua's name, amen.